Nice turtle shell. The other day I came out here and Benjamin was playing in the water with that turtle shell, and I said, Ben, are you playing with your turtle shell? He found that in the woods, and he said, I'm not playing, I'm washing my turtle shell. And I was like, oh, okay. Serious business. Bear, you want to go in the garden, man? Let's go check it out. Me too. This is a freshly rained on garden. It's been raining so much. And the forecast every day this week says rain. It won't rain all day every day, but it will probably rain a little bit every day. So much. Here we go. 4 inches since yesterday morning. That's since my garden tour. It's rained 4 more inches. I did a big thing today. It took me about 3.5 hours. I pruned and tied up all my tomato plants. That's these 3 rows and all 4 beds full in the high tunnel. Lots and lots of tomatoes. And it was really actually a pretty good time. Things like that are very, I guess, monotonous tasks that don't require a lot of brain power, that just keep your hands busy, and it's just the same thing over and over. I like tasks like that. I'll just listen to podcasts and just go through it. Towards the end, it was getting kind of hot outside, and so I was pretty done with it by the time I actually got done with it. And I felt super accomplished afterwards, like coming down and looking at all the tomatoes. I'm like, yeah. So I'll probably have like 2 more really good and intense prunings like that. Once the tomato plants get up pretty high, I kind of start leaving some of the suckers, especially on the cherry tomatoes. I sort of become a little lax about the pruning. I might try not to this year. I say that every year. I always become lax about the pruning. When it gets really hot outside, I'm just like, forget it, it's fine. I specifically planted my plants in the raised beds out here further apart so that they could handle not being as pruned later on in the season, but I will stay on top of pruning the plants in the high tunnel because I planted them way too close together. They'll have to be a single stalk. Oh my goodness. Thorn Oakenshield just ran across there, and I had just this total airhead moment where I thought I heard a bark and I was like, Thorn? It was Con on the other side of the yard, but it just kind of bounced over here. Isn't this little area so pretty with my containers?
Take one pee with us. There's no yours.
Take a pee with us? Okay. Thank you for bringing me one. Hey, Ben. I see something. Come here. Ooh, it's soft right there. Look. What is it? Oh, there it is. Look. Oh, you found another one. I'm over here trying to show you this one, and you're over here trying to show. Look. Cucumber. I think that can stand to get a little bit bigger. Yeah, there's a bunch of little babies on there, huh? There's one right here, too. So why don't we remember those are here? I bet they'll be ready to eat in a day or 2. Pretty excited to see those cucumbers getting that big. Harvested my first squash, summer squash, back off the squash plants. And I've got a whole lot of this going on, but I noticed a little bit of this going on. That makes me so happy. Here's some more little baby tomatoes on this. These are all cherry tomatoes that are starting to set some little fruits. I noticed too that I'm getting blossoms on my dragon tongue bush beans, so we'll have little tiny beans on here soon.
A storm's coming for us.
A storm's coming for us. I hear the thunder, but I don't know that it's coming for us. I showed this a little bit in the garden tour, but like, check out this fasciated blossom on this tomato plant. That dude's gonna have to come off. Look at that. That is gnarly right there. That is a... Sometimes you can tell because the stems, yeah, that's got 4 stems. That would be a huge funky tomato. I'm not gonna let it go. That thunder is loud. I talked about this in the garden tour, but Fasciated blossoms are just fused blossoms. They make big fused tomatoes. The issue with those is you can get rot spots and they'll sometimes ripen unevenly. And so when I see big blossoms like this, I pull them off. They are a point of interest if you want to let them grow and just see what happens, but do understand that sometimes those fruits, sometimes they end up with spots that are inedible, and the plant will put a lot of energy into making that big tomato and not as much into setting more fruit. So I pull those off. It's very common, especially in heirloom varieties, for the first few sets of blossoms to have the fasciated blossoms. They tend to set less of them later on in the season, I've noticed. Here's something I'm wondering about. I posted about this on Instagram. This is a Jersey Devil, and I've seen this a little bit on my plants, but this is definitely the most exaggerated one. Look at the arm on this plant. What in the world? That's crazy. This morning was leg day in our workout. I'm feeling the burn. Okay, so I just got down here so you could see reference-wise. This is huge. Probably about 20 inches or so. Maybe a little bit more than that. What in the world? Have you seen? Someone told me that this was caused by cold weather. The other arm of this plant, and the Jersey Devils, I've got 3 here, and they all have really long arms. So is this just characteristic of this plant? It's my first time to grow it. When I came across this, I just could hardly believe it. I've never seen this before, and it's just, I don't know. My tomato plants do look just exceptionally happy this year. I'm just really impressed with how they're looking so far.
Just pulled it out of the ground.
You just pulled that out of the ground? Oh, okay. Well, alrighty. This is Malabar spinach that has reseeded in the bed. This is where the trellis was last year. Okay. I'm gonna move a little bit more of this over to the trellis where I'm growing Malabar spinach this year, and then I'll pull the rest of it out, but it feels like such a shame to pull out perfectly good plants. I noticed this earlier as well. Let me show you. Can you see those little boogers? I sprayed them off when I was working on them, but I've got aphids on some of my tomato plants. Aphids on tomatoes, it happens. With aphids, you can get them off. This one has some too. You can get them off by spraying, just spray them off with water. And you can do neem oil to try to kill them and keep them off. Usually aphids won't kill a tomato plant. Some things they will kill. Aphids suck the sap out of plants. That's how they live. And some plants they will basically just suck the life out of, and they just don't recover. Tomato plants are so sappy. They usually can withstand, and except for if it's like a really intense infestation. So seeing some aphids is not that big of a deal. You know, you probably want to do something about them, but like don't freak out if you see them. They end up on the plants pretty much yearly, and you still get a really great harvest. But I don't know. They're not on all of mine. They're just on some of them. I sprayed them off earlier. There's some on there again, so have to be a little more persistent. Hello, sir. Hi. Hey. Are you the Billy Goat Gruff? He always comes and stands on the bridge. Hey. Be sweet. Be sweet. Such pretty eyes.
What?
You going ahead and using your water shoes?
Yep. Yeah, water shoes. You can go for the creek.
Excuse me.
Hey. Hey, Jack.
This goat was a wether that came with my Nigerian dwarf does. He's related to them, and he's weathered, so we can't breed him. But my cousin Amy is actually taking this dude as well as one of our Nigerian dwarf bucklings just to have as pets and keep in her backyard. But I'm kind of gonna miss him. I intentionally didn't get super attached to him because I knew that she was gonna take him, but she couldn't take him now before the baby was weaned because goats don't need to be alone. So I just said I would hang on to him for the meantime, and kind of got used to him being around. His name is Jackson. That's the name that he came with, but that's my son's name, so I always just call him Sir. So we've talked about this on a live video. I don't know that I've put it in a vlog. Maybe I have. I don't know. But I get asked about it a lot, so I'm not sure. But we downsized our alpaca herd. We were dealing with some health issues. We were working with a local vet and basically learned that there was a parasite resistance that was going on, and it was just a lot. And what we ended up doing was switching over the dewormers that we used, got everything under control, but we really decided that here at this property we were just overtaxed. Thorin just had to come and get in the shot. He doesn't actually want to be filmed directly. He will go away from me, but he wants to stand directly behind me while I talk. So we have 3 females which are bred, and we have 1 male, and he lives in with our goats. We saw that was kind of how Arm's Family Homestead, who also has recently gotten alpacas, that they kept a male in with their goats. And we thought, well, that's awesome. And there was a bit of an alpaca happening this weekend. They got sheared. Hey, Manny. Now, I went back and watched the video of when we got our alpacas because I was like, oh my gosh, they're so skinny. And they're not. This is just what they look like. I've just gotten really used to them having a bunch of fiber. Hey, Fuzzy Man. Hey, Manny, you're so fun. Here, come on. Get out. Come on. He was in there because he just ate a minute ago. See, I thought Thorin he looked almost as big as Manny when Manny had all his fur. He's definitely bigger than Manny now that we've got Manny sheared. Okay, attention. Downsizing the alpacas was one of the hard decisions that we had to make. Probably one of the hardest, and we also, and we've discussed this at length, but still get asked about it pretty regularly, is that we also rehomed our horses, which we had a lease next door, and we were leasing a really large field over there. And basically the neighbor that was leasing that to us was no longer interested in leasing it. And it very, very short notice, we basically had 3 horses on the little 2-acre pasture next door, and we're faced with the option of boarding them, and the closest place we could find was a good little drive from here. And we just knew that with as busy as we are, that they were not going to get a lot of attention, and we didn't want to do that to them, and we didn't want to keep them in that tiny pasture because it wasn't good for them. When we first started homesteading 6 years ago, I would say we really had more in mind a hobby farm. We were not thinking about growing large amounts of food. We certainly weren't thinking about trying to grow He's rolling around in the hay. Oh, Thorin. There he goes. The other day he was doing that, and I looked out and I thought that he was like, I thought that he was not okay, because goats don't usually do that. And I ran out here and he jumped up like, what's the matter with you? He's just enjoying scratching a nice little itch there by rolling around in the hay. Is that right, Thorin? So what I was saying before I got distracted, we didn't start this with a lot of, like, we had 0 agricultural experience. We had very little knowledge, 0 practical knowledge and experiential knowledge at all. But I'd read a lot of books, but a lot of the stuff that I had read was more along the lines of like just, you know, a hobby farm, a handful of backyard chickens and a garden and maybe a few dairy goats. It certainly wasn't anything about large-scale production, but as our desires and our dreams have gotten bigger, and the idea of at some point having, you know, the kind of place where people can come and learn to grow food and really like having an impact by localizing the food movement, that's required expanding our knowledge. That's required learning things that we didn't know before. And because when we started out, we had a much smaller view in mind, we weren't thinking about rotational grazing. We weren't thinking about any of that stuff. We really weren't thinking about building the soil and leaving any sense of legacy at all, but that's grown in us. And so we've had to kind of adjust on things, rein ourselves in over and over and over again. And to be honest, like the alpacas were something that I did want, and I really, really dig them. They're super fun. They're funny animals. I have been learning to spin. I have now their fleeces, which I am planning on carding and spinning and hopefully making into something, although it's probably going to be the winter before I get into a whole lot of that. Definitely really too busy for that right now. Really, we're not looking for that to be the primary focus of what we're doing. Our primary focus is growing food, and so we decided to kind of rein it into a place that was like a reasonable hobby-sized herd. The vet costs will be a lot easier, medication, and just overall maintenance, and the impact on the land. So now I refer to my animals as Manny and the Billy Goat Scruff like they're a boy band or something, which I think is totally cool. You got it?
Yes.
Come on, Bear. Go ahead. It's really weird to me now to look back on the beginning of our journey on homesteading, because, and I say this all the time, like if who I was 6 years ago could see where we are right now, I really don't know that I could have even wrapped my head around it. Like this is so much more than what I'd hoped for. I left my mug out here this morning. The thing is though, that through the journey of homesteading, there have been moments where like decisions had to be made, where directions had to be changed, where, you know, we had to take a leap and try new things, and then also scale back on things that we didn't want to do or learned by hands-on experience that we didn't want to do that way. And it's really interesting now because of having gardened different ways and kept animals different ways. When I look at what we want to do, when I think about teaching, I love that I have all those experiences. And I look at where we are now and I think of the fact that at some point we could have said, we don't want to do this big. We don't want to, you know, be able to grow food for other people. We don't really care to gain the experience to teach. We want to do other things and just have this as a hobby or a small scale thing. Like now, I mean, I can talk about the things. I mean, there's definitely a lot of emotion when it comes to changing gears when it involves getting rid of animals. A lot of emotion. So I'm talking about it in a really level-headed sense now, but it's not by any means an easy choice to make. Like, it comes with a lot of prayer and really thinking things through and making sure that we have good places for those to go and all of that. But when I get to this point that it is level-headed and I go, okay, that was what needed to happen for us to move forward in the overall bigger vision. And will I ever have like a big alpaca herd again? I think maybe. I'm not 100% sure. I can't confidently say that I'll want to get back into it to that level. I do like having alpacas, so I think that I'll always have at least some of them. Will we have horses again? Absolutely. But that was very hard, and it was with the absolute certainty that there will be horses again. And sometimes you do. Sometimes you have to come to a place and you have to kind of scale back for the sake of being able to get back there in a way that's healthy and right, rather than like pushing to like hold a door open that's trying to close. Like, that's just never a place that I want to be. Oh, Benjamin, why are you always such a mess? Oh gosh, I just realized what shirt you're wearing. Guys, this is not an announcement. That is a hand-me-down. That is not his shirt.
It was in my drawer, so it's my turn.
It was in your drawer, so it's your shirt. That shirt says most awesome big brother. So who are you the big brother to?
No one?
No one, that's exactly right. What's funny is that one time we got to a family camping trip and Benjamin was wearing that shirt. It's been like a year ago. That was when it was still like Toby's shirt or something like that. And for some reason he had put it on and we get there and everybody's like, oh my gosh, and they're reading it and everybody else noticed it before I did. And then when I finally did, I was like, no, this is not a pregnancy announcement. And on that note, I'm gonna go in the house and say goodbye. Thank you for hanging out with me today. I bless you. Until next time.